Cyber Revolution had this aspect of placement programs. And when I thought about it, I think this would be the ideal way to build contacts, build those connects, and get into a job to get into the industry.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cyber Revolution podcast. I'm Adam Hewitt, CEO of Cyber Revolution. And today I'm joined by a former student of ours, Namratha Kashyap. Namratha, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for coming on. You've gone and got yourself a cybersecurity job. Well done.
Thanks so much, Adam. Thank you so much.
Who would have thought after, when we first spoke, what was it, about a year or maybe probably more so now, 14, 18 months ago, in the middle of a COVID lockdown.
Yes. Another end of 2021, I think.
Yeah. Amazing. We'll get into the details of how exactly you did that soon. Before we do, I want to give the listeners of the podcast, the new listeners of the podcast, a bit of an overview of who this podcast is for. So Cyber Revolution, we're Australia's only dedicated cybersecurity training and placement organisation. We basically specialise in finding people their first job in cybersecurity. And who this podcast is for is somebody who is thinking about changing careers or getting into cybersecurity for the first time, but doesn't know too much about it, or they might be fearful about whether they can do it or not. There are a lot of common misconceptions about cybersecurity. So we want to break down those misconceptions and those barriers and, basically just educate people on what cybersecurity is and how you can get a job in this industry. Okay, so if that sounds interesting, then keep listening. Namratha, let's get into it. I want to start from the very beginning, even before you and I first met. What were you doing for work? And actually, you weren't working, that's right. I just remember you were a stay-at-home mother. So you're obviously, a stay-at-home mum. What made you start to think about getting back into the workforce?
Okay, yes. As you said, I wasn't working. I was a stay-at-home mom. But then I used to work before. I became a mom. So I have had this technical background. I was a developer before. So once I thought it was a good time for me to, restart my career, I started just doing research. And when I had a gap of around 7 to 8 years, and when I was doing my research, I saw that cyber security is quite a big thing. And it was not the same back then when I was working. And wherever I saw, they said cybersecurity is something that's it's the in thing, the most important thing in the market. And I think it's also to do with the way the working environment has changed. I think mainly due to COVID as well. There is so much of work from home happening. So I think cybersecurity has definitely taken a lot of focus.
Yeah. So you came from a technical background in developing. You had around an 8 year gap from working?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And so you'd heard about cybersecurity, I'm assuming, before when you were in that technical role. 8 years had passed. Had you heard more and more, I guess, around this thing called cybersecurity and how it was being more and more important for companies to implement? Or did you already know that it was, really, really important back then when you were working as a developer?
The security in itself is important. That's common sense for a developer.
Yeah.
But then the amount of focus that it has now to what it had, say, 10 to 15 years back has definitely changed. When I thought that this was the time for me to focus more on my career, and I thought I should get back into the industry, and I just started doing my very basic research because it was a huge gap, I realized that it might be a good opportunity for me to change my career because I was starting fresh anyway. So I could get back into development or do something else, which I've never done before.
Yep. And so the reason you chose cybersecurity just because was that momentum in the industry. You kept hearing more and more about it.
That's right.
Were you nervous that you weren't going to be able to learn the new skills? As you said, it is a career change, right? It's something completely different from a skill set perspective. Were you a little bit nervous that you had a bit of a break in your career and had to learn some new skills?
Definitely. In those 8 years, I've mostly been at home with a kid and a toddler, and all my conversation was with my kid. So it had been a while since I had spoken to an adult with a normal professional conversation.
Yeah.
This was way down, way below, and I was definitely nervous for sure.
Yep. How did you overcome those nerves?
I don't know, Adam. I think talking to you was, to be honest, yes, talking to you was, I think after a very long time, I spoke to a person and had a proper conversation about career. That was a good start.
Yep.
And I kept telling myself that I've done so many things in the past, so I still have it in me to, learn new things. And maybe those motivational talks to myself, prep talks to myself helped.
Yep.
And family definitely also had an impact. My husband always kept telling me that, yes, you can go ahead with your choices. So, yes.
I remember that. Your husband was extremely supportive, which is so good. Like, you have to have this. Yeah, you guys are a team and you have to be all aligned with that. And I remember thinking that's so cool when we were first speaking and you were saying how supportive that your husband is of this.
Yeah.
And so, good on him for being on board with everything. So, okay, great. And so within, the training space, you obviously started thinking about cybersecurity. You came across Cyber Evolution. Why did you decide to join us instead of all of the other training providers out there?
Okay, so this also has a bit of a story. I think I spoke to you a year after migrating to Australia. After the initial migration and settling down and stuff, and my daughter went to school and all of those things, and I thought of applying for jobs, and I realized that people needed local experience. And in order to get that local experience, this is not talked about. The struggle is real to get a job. The struggle is real. Unless you have contacts in the industry, unless you build contacts, it is a huge struggle to get your foot through the door. I did my research. I came across a lot of organizations, TAFE courses. There were endless options to get through to cybersecurity, to learn the skills. But then what impressed me about Cyber Evolution was that they had this aspect of placement programs. And when I thought about it, I think this would be the ideal way to build contacts, build those connects, and get into a job to get into the industry. So,
yep.
And I think one more thing was I was given options by other people to take up diploma courses for like 2 years, 3 years or whatever, and then get into the industry. But I remember talking to you, and I think you said I already have a bachelor's degree and I don't need to again spend 2 to 3 years studying something that a part of which I have already studied and also worked before. So I remember you telling me that certifications are one of the best ways to upskill oneself. So I had a thought about it. I discussed with my family, and then, I think those were the two things that really stuck with me, and I went ahead with Cyber Evolution.
Right. And you're glad you did, I'm assuming?
Yes, definitely.
Good. And
it's definitely helpful for sure.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think, as you said, whether bachelor's degrees always do help, in a certain way, they can give some credibility, or if you've studied something before. But we've found especially over the last couple of years, that's not what organizations are looking for. And you don't have to spend 2 to 3 years studying a university degree, tens of thousands of dollars, when, all you need to prove is you can know the basics well and then get into, the industry as soon as possible, because that's what the industry needs, is more people as soon as possible, not in 2 or 3 years. I remember having those conversations with you. It was the middle of lockdown in Melbourne, and you also had your children as well. Was that tough? Was that a tough time for you, studying lockdown kids?
It was, yes, because there was like homeschooling to be done, and Melbourne was coming in and out of lockdowns. So every week was different. So yes, it definitely was tough.
Yeah.
Made through it.
Now, on to the good stuff. So you've just landed your first role in cyber. Tell us a little bit more about that job. What's your job title?
Okay. I am a cybersecurity analyst now in a cybersecurity focused company called SureCity Networks based in Melbourne.
Cybersecurity analyst. That's amazing. And so I know you're only just in the role, but give the listeners a little bit of an insight as to what your job description is, day-to-day will start to look like as you develop and find your feet within the job.
So, yes, I've just landed into the job. It's been a month and a half. So it's still been, a learning experience. I'm still learning. Every day is a learning experience. So I go into the office and there's something new that I'm about to learn and something new that comes up. I also got a couple of weeks training, to get to know the tools that is being used and all of those stuff. My main job would involve, looking at different kinds of logs and threats and ensuring that the services, the companies that we provide service to, ensuring that they are safe from cyber attacks. Yeah.
Yep. So identifying threats, ensuring that their networks are safe, and I'm assuming that takes up a lot of your day. And what I find with a lot of our students is that almost for the first 6 months of a new role, first time landing in a cybersecurity job, you are just learning about how to do that job as opposed to actually doing it. Does that make sense?
It's so true. Because if you ask me now, like I was very confused to answer your question, because I go to the office and learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the actual answer.
Yes. Yeah. And we'll have you back on in 6 to 12 months' time, and I'll ask you the same question. I do this, and this. We're good.
Sure. But I'm sure the learning aspect would still be there.
I told you before we started the podcast that I went to an event and the room was full of CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, and they still there was a panel, and they were talking that constantly wanting to get 1% better is one of the most crucial strategies that everyone needs to implement, from anyone who's an entry-level cybersecurity person all the way up to their level, 25 years in the industry, is upskilling and getting better. Just 1% each day or each week, you know what I mean, is something that they mentioned. So you're in for lifelong learning, that's for sure.
That's true.
And I want to talk a little bit more about the fact that we need more women in cybersecurity. As a woman in cyber, did you notice, and it might be, I'm not sure how large the organization is, but do you notice that there is a gender gap? And did you notice that as well within your developing days back, 8 years or so ago?
There has always been a gender gap, to be honest.
Yeah.
Back then and now, and I don't know if I should say specifically in the cybersecurity industry, but I'd say it's been there everywhere.
Yeah.
But yes, you are asking me about cybersecurity, so I will say yes and no to that. Yes, because after Cyber Revolution, I also did a very short course to, through the Victorian government, we're doing a cybersecurity course. And when I compared the number of male participants to female, like 90% was male. And I could count in single-handedly the number of female participants that were there. So yes, I do see a gender gap for sure.
Yep.
But I'm also going to say that the team we have now is completely women in the cyber. So we have network security and cybersecurity. And cybersecurity we are all ladies in the team. So extremely proud of that as well.
That's awesome. I think there's a shift coming out. Our main placement partner, CyberCX, have just announced, I'm not sure whether you heard, a female-only cohort for their next intake of the Cyber Academy. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so it's just females only. So for everyone listening and all of our students listening, speak to your student support officer around that if you're one of our female students, and we will help get you applied for that. It is a huge initiative. Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's awesome because at the moment it's trending upwards, but it's 80-20 is the split between male and female, and I think that is trending towards sort of 70-30, but it's got a little bit of a way to go.
I agree with you. There definitely is a gap.
Oh, there definitely is. Yep, there definitely is. Now that you're in the industry, what are you most excited about now that you've got a job and you've done the hard yards? Yeah, what excites you now about your future?
A lot of things. What excites me most is that steep learning curve that I'm going through. That's like, as I told you just before, that I go to the office and then there is something new every single day. So that in itself is quite motivating. And one more thing is that I'm challenged intellectually. I'm challenged enough, to make me feel like, this sounds interesting. I might want to look into this and learn about this.
Yes.
So, and when I come back home by the end of the day, I feel that I've learned so much and I've done so much more.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't doing a year back.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes a lot of difference.
Have you had, now that your family and extended family know that you're in cybersecurity, have you had friends and family reach out to you and be like, hey, what do I do to protect myself and my family at all?
My mom was like super happy to, I told her I got into cybersecurity and she's like, oh, wow, that sounds so cool. And she kept talking about all the scam calls and scam messages that she gets. We had a huge discussion over dinner the other day about how we could avoid it and all those stuff. But yes, I when I tell my friends that I'm a cybersecurity analyst, I get this look like, wow, that sounds great.
It does. That sounds good. I know. But that's what we find all about students that get placed. They'll like announce it on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden they'll have friends and family reach out to them and go, hey, like, what is this thing called cybersecurity? And am I safe? And if I'm not, how do I protect myself? And you just become, the cyber advisor for your friends and family. It's quite funny.
Yet to get into the advisor position for the extended family, but I'm sure that's going to happen soon.
Moving on, I want you to kind of give some of the listeners some little tricks and tips that you implemented, or some advice that you've got for them, because everyone that is listening right now is either, I would probably say 90% of the listeners right now are wanting to get into the role that you've just gotten into, a cyber analyst, or into the industry in general. What would be your top 3 tips for somebody who's listening right now that wants to, to get their first job in cybersecurity?
I would say first do your research. You just Google cybersecurity analyst and you get so much information. So do your research and analysis thoroughly. Every person has his own journey, a different background, a different journey. Because I came from a technical background, I think it helped me a bit more than somebody who comes from a completely different background. So do your research and chalk out a path. It might be different. Talk to people, but don't try to replicate it, because as I said, it's different from people. Another thing is you chalk out your path, or you have a goal in your mind. What I did was even before I started Cyber Revolution, or when I just started, I had a goal that 1 year down the line, my goal is to have a job. I cannot aim to be a cybersecurity architect or a manager. I have to start from somewhere, right? So have a goal, have an achievable goal, and then stick to it. Having a goal is not sufficient. You have to stick to it.
Yes.
Put in your efforts, stick to it. Once you have reached your goal, once I got my first job, that was like a step into the door. And then my next goal was, within the next 1 year, I should get into the cybersecurity industry. And that's where I am at the moment. My next goal should be that getting to the field. Cybersecurity in itself is vast. So get into the field in whatever I am interested in. Yeah, I think have a goal, make sure you put in efforts, stick to it, make sure you achieve your goal. I think this is more of a life advice, but I think it applies.
We've gone deep. You've gone very deep just then, Namratha, but I like it. But it's simple and it makes sense. Like, as you said, do your research. And we always say this. This is why we have before becoming a student, you have, 2 conversations at least, and they go for 30 minutes with somebody like we did around, why do you want to get into cybersecurity? Ask questions. Is it a good fit for me? What are some of the roles entail? You don't have to go down the technical pathway like you have, you're in regards to a cyber analyst. There's so many different avenues that you can go down: consulting, education, there's a bunch. And so do your research, figure out, okay, this is for me. I think one of the common traits that I always see pop up in these conversations is that you enjoy lifelong learning. You enjoy that stuff. Like, you're like, I've just learned so much today, and tomorrow's going to be the same. And so if you're someone like that, then that's obviously going to be a good fit for you. So identify, is it a good fit? Once it is, you've done your research, put an achievable plan together. As you said, you're not going to, not going to go straight into a chief information security officer role. And then once you've set that plan, put the work in and get it done, which you did. I remember, it was a very, very difficult time, although being in lockdown is, you've got the time to study, but like, I remember that, that you just kept showing up to all of your student sessions every time. Bang, on time. Yep, I've done this. Adam, I actually haven't studied now. I've had a bad week or two. I haven't done any studies, but you still showed up to those sessions because you were so driven. And so I think it is very good advice. Yeah, that everyone should.
The most important advice, Adam, is to have that confidence and belief in yourself. A lot of people, I think, take a step back thinking, oh, this might be something very complex. I might not be able to do this. I think having that confidence and belief in yourself so that you can do whatever you want to is the most important.
I couldn't agree.
Anybody can do anything.
Exactly. And as you said at the start of this conversation, it is just a skill like you'd learned before.
Yes.
You've just got to put the time in and effort. And unfortunately, as you said, if you let some of those self-doubts creep in and you look at reasons why not to do something, then typically that's when the regrets start to creep in. And so we are getting into more life lessons here than science.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's really, really poignant and very good tips. So thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday to share your experience with us. It's great to catch up with you again. It's been too long. We haven't spoken for a few months now, or probably longer. So It's always good to chat to you.
Sure. Same here, Adam. It was great to chat with you.
Great. And we'll chat.
Thank you so much for having me here.
No worries at all. As I said, I'm going to hold you to it. We're going to have you back on in 6 and 12 months time, and I'm going to ask you some similar questions, and we'll see how you progress.
Sure.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, if you enjoyed listening, please like, comment, share the podcast, subscribe, tell your family and friends about it. If you want to know more about the job placement program that Namratha went through, head to cyberrevolution.com.au, leave your details there, and someone from the team will be in touch. Thanks for listening.